Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Joanna Goldfarb. I'm the Sustainability Innovation Consultant here at the Ranvo-Ketska Library System. And today we are going to learn about starting a bike borrowing program at the library. Just a few quick housekeeping things before we get started. A reminder that this program is being recorded. The recording has begun. Please keep yourself on mute unless you are prompted to unmute. This will just help cut back on background noise. Also, there will be question and answer at the end, so please hold your questions until then. With that, I'm going to pass this off to Emma Balsam and Paul Spear to get us started.
All right. Thanks, Joanne. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. And certainly, we'd like to welcome you to the Statewide Mobility Services Bike Borrow webinar. As I mentioned, we are part of the New York State Department of Transportation, and we appreciate you joining us today. So a little bit about the Statewide Mobility Services program. We are a team that is focused on reducing single occupancy vehicle traffic, improving air quality, and certainly providing individuals and organizations, both private and public, with opportunities to use more environmentally and economically friendly means of transportation all across New York State. As Joanne had mentioned, I'm Paul Spreer. I'm the Director of Sustainable Mobility. And joining me on the call today is my colleague Emma Balsam, who is a Sustainable Mobility Specialist. We do appreciate your time and interest in learning about how bike borrow programs can benefit your organization. And it's our hope today that we can get some information from you, as well as impart some wisdom on you guys as well. So next slide, please. First of all, we'd like to extend a special thank you to our guest speakers, both joining us live and via pre-recorded video. Certainly their insights and experiences are valuable as we discuss the growth and impact of the bike borrow programs. We can go to the next slide. So here's what we're going to cover over the next hour. Certainly, we've kind of done it a little bit already, but we'd like to introduce the team. Then we'd like to give you an introduction to the bike borrow program and talk about the following. Certainly, identifying the need for a program, the program structure and its benefits. Then we, again, ask our guest speakers to join us. Then we've got a polling activity that we'd like to do. And then lastly, we'd certainly love to open up the floor for some Q&A. We aim to keep this kind of interactive, so feel free to note your questions and we'll address them during the question and answer session at the end. So we can go to the next slide. Again, I'm Paul Spreer, and I like to focus on a variety of different mobility initiatives statewide, and Emma works closely with communities to implement mobility solutions tailored to local needs. Goes without saying, we're passionate about our sustainable transportation efforts and are excited to share our work with you. So why don't we talk about the bike borrow programs a little bit? So what is a bike borrow program? Essentially, it's a community-based initiative that's designed to offer temporary use of bicycles free of charge. As you can see below, this is an opportunity that we launched it back in April down here on Long Island in Wyandanch. The idea behind it is that it is a community-based solution. This is a community center called Spin the Yard. And the idea is that, we kind of latched into this library of things trend, and our hope here is to promote sustainable, eco-friendly transportation to communities at large. Next slide, please. Okay, so identifying the need for a bike borrow program. What we're looking for are some criteria. Essentially, we're looking for areas that lack any sort of robust public transportation system. The idea behind this is that it does, fill in some gaps. And certainly the idea behind a first mile, last mile solution is a key component of helping people kind of transition over to using more public transit. We're also looking for a high concentration of family housing. That being said, people may not always have enough space to keep a bicycle at their home or in the apartment or condo that they're staying in. So this kind of alleviates the need to worry about storage when you can swing by the library and sign out a bike for a week or two. And certainly, at the bottom of all this is economic accessibility for those unable to afford bikes. Can create any number of things, job access. It can create, opportunities to get around the community for errands and personal needs and things of that nature. So those are some of the highlights of what it is that we're looking to do as a result of the Bike Borrow programs. Next slide, please. So this is how the program works. Again, we've got some flexibility to work with you on this, but these are some of the key tenets that we subscribe to. Certainly, we ask that participants be 18 years of age or older to borrow the bikes. They must sign a liability waiver in order to borrow the bike. The borrowing period is limited to 2 weeks. Now, again, that's one of these things that is up to discussion. If you feel that a short-term lending opportunity would help increase usage, that's entirely up to you folks, and you're certainly able to do that. And again, we encourage the use of safety equipment. We do not supply it, but being consistent with our concern for the overall welfare of patrons at the library, we do recommend that it is used. Next slide, please. Okay, so the benefits to your community for this, obviously, sustainability and mobility. Okay, we're looking to reduce traffic, we're looking to reduce emissions, and we're looking to reduce congestion. Fairly, important and obvious. Certainly, from a health and wellness perspective, what we're hoping to do is help people get, back into a more active and healthy lifestyle. I've had experiences where I've talked with people that have benefited from the program tremendously in that space. I myself, after having, been around the co-op and seen some of the benefits to bike riding, actually have a bike myself, and I've been waiting to get rid of the snow so I can get back out on it and start using it. And certainly accessibility and equity. Like I talked about before, we're looking to provide as many people on a whole with free access to transportation, whether it's using the bike to get to public transportation or using it as a necessary means to an end. Next slide, please. So how does the structure of the program work? Okay, the bikes are provided for free for borrowing. Okay, we ask that the lending location administer the program. So in your case, if it's through a library, it would be much the same way that someone borrows a book or borrows software or a film or DVD. Basically you're signing it out much the same like you would any other collateral from a library. The program is supported by nonprofits for bike donations and maintenance. And I can get into that a little bit more later. Next slide, please. Okay, so steps to launching a program. Certainly, we talked about the eligibility and registration. Okay, again, 18 years of age or older. We want to make sure that they're aware of, not necessarily the requirement, but, the implication that they should wear some type of helmet, safety vest, whatever the case may be. Then we talked about the liability waivers and safety precautions, and certainly regular maintenance and bike inspections. This is a sample of a waiver that one of our program partners have created. Just to go on the record as stating, we do not create the waiver for you. This is something that we strongly recommend that you speak with your legal teams and your insurance providers with, just so that you're getting something in place that is indemnifying you and keeping both you and your patrons safe. Next slide, please. So the impact on the community. Just bear with me for a second here. The impact for the community in a situation with the Bike Borrow program, again, is that it does help you support your sustainable transportation goals. More than anything else, there is a social aspect to this too. It does foster community engagement. Some of the folks that we talked to that were early on in the program mentioned that going into the summer, it was a great way to get around town, and it created curiosity. Where'd you get the bike? How are you getting around town? Where can I get my hands on one? Any number of different benefits to that. And certainly, as we've mentioned, it does provide an alternative for car ownership. Next slide, please. So how to move forward. What we'd love to do is talk to you a little bit more and determine if there is community interest, and certainly if there is a need in your community. We begin the discussion with local organizations to see about hosting the bikes, talk about maintenance for the bikes if there is an opportunity to have them repaired, and just keep everything running nice and smoothly for you as possible. And certainly, we'd ask that you take a look at potential nonprofit partners for the bikes and for support. I'd mentioned this earlier with regard to the bicycles. We are very lucky to partner with an organization called the Long Island Bicycle Co-op. They are a nonprofit organization down here on Long Island that has three different locations spread out across the island, New Hyde Park and Plainview, and then further out east on the island in St. James. And they've been able to provide us with a volume of bicycles to bring to the libraries here on Long Island. It's our position that if there is a need and we are able to, we will certainly share the bikes from Long Island up in your area. Okay, we've gotten the green light from the co-op. Their whole motivation and kind of mission is to change bike culture, so to get people out on their bikes. So if it means that they're spreading the wealth across the state, nobody's the wiser, but everybody's happier. So that's kind of the next steps to move forward. Next slide, please. Okay, Emma, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sounds good. I am now going to transition over to our guest speakers. We technically have two. One of them is in person today. One of them actually is not. She sent us a pre-recorded video to share a little bit more about their experience with bike bar programs and leading those at their establishments. So Carolyn is the director of the Peninsula Public Library. That is actually a photo of me and her. This is a photo from the Nassau Herald newspaper that someone came from the paper that came over, interviewed both of us. There's an article online and in print for the launch day of this bike bar program back in early June. It was very exciting for bikes. And before I get too much into the program in the Peninsula Public Library, I'll just pass it over to her video that she submitted to us. I was almost on autopilot to thank Carolyn for her time, but I will thank her regardless. I thought that was a fantastic video. I hope it gave you all a good understanding of the impact that a bike bar program can have on a community. And with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to our guest speaker who is here in person today, Debbie Engelhart. She is the director of the Comstock Public Library. This is a photo of the group of staff members from her library, and she is on the left-hand side of this photograph. And I would like to now just turn it over to her to share a little bit more about her experience.
Thank you so much. I'm Debbie. I am part of our library's part of the Suffolk Cooperative Library System. We have engaged in this program because we saw that it would have multiple positive impacts on our community. More broadly speaking, it demonstrates the library's responsiveness to community needs, shows the library as a community leader, and the library as an institution that can pivot to what the community needs, making things happen in a short time with Paul's help in a cooperative and sustainable fashion. We want the community to see us as conscientious and in touch with their needs, and also, of course, as environmentally aware. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? So we got very good feedback to the program. We started again in the fall of 24. Lots of positive comments from perhaps people who won't use the program. And of course, from those who did so far. And like Carolyn said, we're looking forward to the warmer weather, and Paul too, to get ourselves and others back on those bikes. Also, it got dark early in the fall, so we did a soft rollout and made a lot of puns about things rolling out and other bicycle puns. You'll see if you get involved with the program, they start to just come to you. We're going to be promoting it more heavily in the spring and throughout the rest of the year. Several social media posts from our community page, continued to show that people thought it was a great idea. We know from our social media in our area that people are commuting to work by bike, and that they often need to repair or replace their bikes, and they're looking for maybe a bike that's available for someone to give away. Maybe their bike is just broken right now, and those bike repairs, if you can't do them on your own, are sometimes rather costly. So our library bikes can be a backup for as long as needed. Also wanted to tell you that, if somebody wants to borrow a bike instead of buy it, as Paul alluded to, they don't need to store it. We do have a lot of folks renting, living in apartments. Maybe it's not easy for somebody to carry that bike up and down the stairs, for example, or they might not feel that it's safe to lock outside. We know we're reducing the environmental impact, reducing our carbon footprint. That's a big part of it. We love the idea of greener transportation as a library that's been certified through the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. And we're, happy to inspire people to get their own bicycles out and ride them for their own health and for the planet's health. So we would recommend the program. We consider it part of our library of things. And we serve a population that we know can greatly benefit from this. We had one person who didn't know we had bikes. They arrived by bus. They had a job interview coming up later in the day, and they were delighted to borrow a bike to take them that last mile, so to speak, to their job interview. We also had a woman whose car was being worked on, and she borrowed a bike so that she could get her errands done in the interim. So in combination with public transit, we see this as a win for anybody local, really. We see it as a win. We've had people Uber to the library, and we know how costly that can be in the short term. So hopefully they can get on board with this too. And our staff has really smiled a lot with the, inception of this program, borrowing bikes during their lunch times, taking a spin, even if it's just a little spin around the parking lot or down the street. they're getting out, on those nicer days. And you can see all the smiles in our picture. So it's been a great experience so far, and is a little different than what we've done in the past, but aren't libraries doing lots of new things these days? Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Debbie. That was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad to hear all these incredible stories from both your patrons and your staff and all the great memories folks have on these bikes. I hope that other libraries, folks that are on this call, that you can get on board so that you can have similar experiences to this. And with that being said, I will now turn this over. We are moving towards our live polling activity. I will share my screen now to give you the opportunity to check in. Actually, let's see. Stop by. There's a little bit of a lag, but that's okay. So you should be able to see this. You should be able to scan either this QR code or go to menti.com and type in the following code in order to access our personal Menti. So I'll give folks a minute or so to do that.
Hey Emma, you mind if I take some dead air?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, this is Elwood Henry, and I'm the statewide mobility manager for NISDOT. And I just wanted to add too, I mean, one, thank you so much for meeting with us. I think we're looking to evolve mobility around the New York State just as much as, we see, inspired by the way the libraries have been, evolving into the, our new world as it fastly just are all our rapid changes. And I think one of the things I just wanted to mention is that, we're open to new ideas. We have a really great team of consultants and not-for-profits on this program. I think there'll be new grant opportunities in the future. And I think, really providing what we hear so much is a lot of lobbying by, the Lime Bike and for-profit micromobilities of the world for advocating for, government money. But, I think we all fill a niche where, to look at the communities that those programs and those business models don't support. And I think I'd love to brainstorm if anybody has ideas on how we could better enhance this program. I think I'd love to move into bikes for people with disabilities. There's all these different new options today. We don't have the donations for that, but maybe, in the future we could look to, get things with more e-bikes and get it more accessible to people that don't have the fitness levels needed, but, with assistance could really be of value. So I just wanted to open that up. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really great to have a partner and to kind of grow in size, and I think we could really do great things. So very inspired by our discussion today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Elwood. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all that you help bring these programs to life. It's great to see folks out there on bikes and reducing cars on the road. Now, I will stop sharing from this. I hope that folks have come in. If not, we'll be able to, let's see, folks should be able to still log in once I'm into the actual Mentimeter itself. So I will now start this. So presenting here, and if folks can let me know if they can see this, maybe a thumbs up in the chat or a comment. People should be able to start dropping a pin as where is the library that you represent? Where are you currently calling in from? Or where is your library located on this map? Okay, I'm seeing a couple people from Orange County. And is anyone having trouble with accessing the Mentimeter? You shouldn't be having to have view only access, but I will.
Emma, I can jump in here.
Sure.
When I first opened it, it was view only access, but now that you've actually started the Mentimeter, if you go back, you'll be able to interact with it.
Sure. So if I press present again,
or if anyone participating goes back, either re-put in the code or just click back on your browser or on your phone, you should be able to interact.
Oh, perfect. Now folks are able to come back in. Excellent. Okay. A lot of Orange County, one from Rockland, two from Rockland. Anybody from Sullivan, Dutchess, or Ulster? Maybe. Great. I'm glad people in the comments are saying that it's working okay. Sometimes refreshing the page will help, or logging back in and out. All right, so I'm seeing that we have mostly people from Orange County and Rockland on the call. I don't think anybody then so far from Sullivan, Ulster, or Dutchess, but that's
We had
okay.
one,
Maybe.
one participant in from Ulster, but
They
there we
just
go.
jumped in.
They
Perfect.
said their web connection was not the greatest, so.
No problem. I completely understand. At least it's not snowing right now. Oh, and Megan, thank you for adding Ulster for Dan. I think we've had enough responses so far for folks who've gotten in, so I'll transition over to the next question. So in your library's community, I have two questions for this. How important is it to promote sustainable transportation options, number one? And number two, how likely do you think library patrons will use a bike bar program? Now, you'll be able to use kind of that dragging slide scale on your screen, and on a scale, of 1 to 5, 1 being not at all and 5 being very much, you can give some feedback. And in live time, you can see it adjust to people's responses. There's 5 people so far. 6. We're seeing at least high levels, very much so. Sustainability and the fact that library patrons will hopefully use a bike bar program. 8. Yeah, we're hovering around that 4.4, 3.8 mark. Great. This is all very important for us. At least we get to see some feedback on what matters to you and what matters to your library community, which we'll touch on a little bit more shortly as well. Maybe I'll wait for one more person to submit if they haven't had a chance yet, and then I will move on. Okay, I think that is all. Moving on to the next question. So at this time, and it's okay if whatever response you give, would you be interested in launching a bike bar program at your library location? Seeing a lot of yeses coming in really quick. That's really great to see. This is awesome. This is great. Four yeses, 9 yeses. This is great. I love that. Gonna give it another second. I feel like people were very excited to get to this question. So great to know. Great to know that this is something that you're interested in. Okay, gonna move on to the next question. Now, would an adaptive bicycle be of interest to your potential bike borrow fleet? Paul, if you could maybe share a little bit more maybe about the recumbent bicycle?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, the idea behind an adaptive bicycle is, we want transportation for everyone. We want everybody to benefit from the idea of the bicycle borrow program. And we're not limited to recumbent bicycles. I've spoken with a variety of different organizations that are working with folks with special needs, and we've found that tandem bicycles for people that may be sight challenged often work out well because you can have your driver in the front, but the person participating in the back may not necessarily have the ability to see or be visually impaired. Certainly, there are handheld cycles for folks that may have challenge with mobility, so they can use their arms. There's any number of applications that apply to it. We're getting into that portion of things now, and certainly the interest only helps us kind of reinforce the notion that it may be a worthwhile component for the bike borrow programs moving forward.
Absolutely. This is definitely something that we want to move towards in the future. So it's great to see that folks would be interested as well, because you never know which patron of yours or which staff member of yours something like this could help bring equity to. So that's awesome. I will now move on to the next question. Does your library currently offer a library of things? I know this is something that we've been talking about a little bit back and forth today. Some libraries do, some libraries don't, and I'm just curious if this is something that your library is already working within. Okay, a no, a couple yeses, couple nos. Well, if it doesn't already offer a library of things by launching a bike bar program, you have now become a library of things. So that is very exciting to look forward to for your library. I'll give folks another couple minutes to respond to this. Okay. We've kind of averaged around 9 to 10 responses per question. All right, there's our 9th person. Perfect. Maybe just another second. And then we just have a few more questions, and then I'll turn it over to a general Q&A. Okay, I think we're good on this one. So this is a question that I'm really looking forward to seeing your responses for. Ranking the strongest barriers to cycling in your area. So you can either on your computer screen or on your phone kind of drag and drop in order of the barrier that you think is most prominent to least prominent for cycling in your area. So first, in no particular order right now, we have weather, terrain challenges, safety concerns, poor or lack of infrastructure, or limited access to bikes. So this one might take a little bit longer because you're considering what you want to rank as, but yeah, go right ahead. Perfect. Seeing terrain challenges come in at the top. From our conversations with Joanna, we've heard that is a very hilly area up there in some regions. So good to know that that is something that you are facing at this time. 11 responses so far. Okay, I think we're good, but so in first, terrain challenges, then safety concerns, then weather, then poor lack of infrastructure, and then finally limited access to bikes. That is the weakest barrier to cycling in your area, at least that there are bike shops and bike programs around where folks can access a bike. But the other notes are interesting for us to know on our end. Thank you so much for sharing. I will be moving on to the next question. Now, you can have this opportunity to give a little bit of an open-ended response if you'd like. If there was something that we didn't cover in the previous slide, what other barriers does cycling in your area face? Give folks a couple minutes for this one because you're actually typing something out, so it might take a minute or so. Staff buy-in.
And keep in mind, this does apply to community response. It could also, see if there might be, some kind of local bike borrow program that's already in place that you feel there might be conflict with, any number of potential issues there. But listen, the fewer of these we have, the better.
Storage. I'll give folks a couple more minutes because I don't know how long people are typing for. All right, storage, expense, and maintenance. Lack of bike lanes in many areas. I don't want to cut anybody off from typing, so I'll give folks just another minute or so, and then we'll move on to the next question. Doubling down on terrain. Cycling up and down big hills can be intimidating and may be a barrier for someone new to the activity. Absolutely. All right, I think we've gotten our responses for this one so far, so thank you for sharing, and I will move on to the next question. Now, what do you imagine the greatest benefit of a bike borrow program would be for your community? Similar to the last question a couple ago, you can drag and drop in the order of importance to you. So health and fitness, enhanced mobility options, environmental impact, increased job access, and cost savings are your choices for this one. Okay, environmental impact, health and fitness. Health and fitness, that is a priority for sure. Enhanced mobility options, always great to have, and this program definitely, as you heard from our guest speakers, has done that for so many folks so far, and it'd be amazing to bring that to your communities as well. Just going to give folks another minute or so, and then we'll transition over to the Q&A. This will be our last question to wrap up. All right, I think those will be all the responses that we are getting for this one. So thank you for sharing. And we've reached the end of our presentation. I will now transition over to back to our slides. And I will present. Transition this back over. All right, now we are at the point of our Q&A. If
So
anybody has any
we'll open up
specific
the floor,
questions.
folks. Just feel free to jump in with a question. If we have a dialogue going on and you just want to raise your hand, that's fine too. Or you can use the chat feature as well.
I see some folks are typing in the chat, so.
Is theft a concern? It can be. We've been very fortunate, knock on wood, up to this point that we haven't experienced any issues with theft. I believe it's the Peninsula Public Library that provides a chain and lock for folks that do borrow the bikes. We hope to think that, you know, if there is an incident where the bike is taken, that it's not with sinister intent, it's out of need. So certainly if that's the case, then, you know, if they've got the bike and it's something that they're going to use and, you know, benefit from, then we'd be happy to replace the bike that was taken and get you up and running again at full capacity.
I was wondering if you could speak to any sort of programs that you're aware of that any libraries might do in conjunction with the bike borrowing program. Like, does anyone do a bike safety course or a learn how to ride a bike kind of
Yes,
program?
as a matter of fact, with the first program that we launched down here in Wyandanch back last April, we actually had a representative from the bicycle co-op come in and teach a safety class to a full room of people. We had a dozen bicycles that went out the door that day that were borrowed. And before anybody was able to lease the bike or borrow the bike, they sat through and took the course. And it was rules of the road. It was basic maintenance on a bike, you know, what to do if your chain pops or what to do if your handlebars are crooked or whatever the case may be. Certainly with other organizations that we've dealt with, we've certainly talked about the idea of maybe taking an online course prior to borrowing the bike for the first time out. So we leave that to your discretion. But again, it's something that we strongly encourage. Again, with the co-op and their help and with the folks at Spin the Yard and Wyandanch, we also had a class with people under the age of 18, and we're able to teach them the rules of the road and in person teach them some basic bike maintenance as well. So, you know, we may not have been able to give them a bike then at the moment, but at least we're encouraging and helping the bike culture for the future. Okay, anyone else?
And it's okay if you don't have any questions now. Of course, you can let this sit with you. I know a lot of information has come your way. I will be sharing Paul and I's contact information on the next slide, but gonna give folks another minute if they have any last minute questions to come off mute. Oh, somebody's typing in the chat, that as well. Oh, thank you for joining.
Debbie, I was
Everyone's
wondering
probably thinking everyone just got finished shoveling snow.
Yeah.
Can't think about riding bikes yet.
I understand that completely. Debbie, I was wondering if you might be able to speak a little bit to the process of creating the liability waiver and helping folks through that process a little bit.
Well, Paul, you shared a couple of models with us, and I just borrowed from them everything that I thought should be there. You know, I made modifications for our facility. But really, it was easy to take what you gave us and then modify it just to customize it and to, you know, have it operate the way that would be the best fit for us here. And then I sent that on to our attorney. I sent it on to our insurance agency. Our attorney just made a few changes to it, and then our insurance agent thought it was perfect just the way it was. So that was the paperwork side. And then you made the rest of it easy by letting us know that if a bike went by the wayside, we didn't have to worry about it. We also provided locks. We just thought that would help the bike stick around a little longer, but they're not expensive. So it was a real low cost thing to get off the ground. We also leave a bike outside in our bike rack with a big sign on it that says borrow me. And that's our everyday ongoing advertisement of the program.
And let me ask you, Debbie, have folks been okay with the quality of the bicycle and you know, have there been any real maintenance issues? I know early on we had a problem with the one with the brakes, but other than that, the bikes have been performing well for you?
Yeah, and by the way, the one with the brakes, you know, nobody got hurt or anything. It was just that we noticed something that we wanted to adjust. So yeah, no, that's been great. We keep a bike pump around. And people have appreciated that. I mean, the bikes are pretty much similar in what they offer, right? I mean, they're all offering the same features. They may look a little different. One might be like a little bigger or a little smaller than another. So people can pick the one that they want, but basically everybody's getting a great bike. I mean, we rode them around on our own the first day when in that picture that you saw. And we were all happy, but there were people who said, "Oh, I want to ride that one," or "I like this one." And so some of them have a rack, which is nice. Different little features make people happy, but they're all giving you a solid basic ride.
Very good.
There's a couple more questions in the chat, one of which being, do other libraries that are already involved in this purchase bike locks to secure the bikes to reduce theft, or do they have the ability to store the bikes securely? It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I was going to say, Debbie kind of answered that question, that they do utilize a lock and chain. We know with Peninsula Public Library, they actually purchased a storage shelter for their library so that the bikes can be stored outdoors. You know, it's something that you can get at Home Depot or something like that, where it's not a complete shed, but it certainly has the capacity to hold the 4 bikes that they've taken possession of. So in foul weather, they're able to protect them from the elements.
And we keep the extra bikes in our basement storage area so that we can bring them up in the elevator.
Terrific.
And lastly, Adrian says adjustable seats and handlebars would be a plus. I feel like some of the seats would be adjustable on some of these bikes.
Yeah, if you take a look at the bikes as they're coming out of retailers and manufacturers nowadays, they have a butterfly nut on the seat and on the handlebars where you can actually adjust them. Just speaking from experience, you just want to make sure that you tighten it real good, because it's not fun to be riding along and have the seat kind of do one of these on you. So just be mindful of that. But yeah, it is a feature that many of the bicycles have.
And Paul, you made it easy for us in that, you know, if we have something that needs repair, we know that we can swap it for another bike very quickly. And if we have I guess if we had a bike that, you know, nobody was borrowing, wasn't being selected time and again, we could swap that out too. So there's so much flexibility there.
We try our best. Yep.
Yeah,
and again, you know, just to throw a compliment to the folks at the Bicycle Co-op. They've been very, very flexible in terms of access to the bicycles, and certainly their willingness to participate in the program. They've been a wonderful partner.
I have a question for Debbie about statistics, because of course we love our statistics. So of course you're tracking checkouts, but do you track anything else? Like, do you ask people how many miles they rode and then say, this is how much carbon we offset or anything like that?
I wouldn't say we got to that point yet, but those are good ideas for us to be able to, you know, evaluate our outputs in those ways. We haven't arrived at that yet. We were very busy with getting the program implemented. So I appreciate those suggestions. Those are great.
Yeah, Debbie and her team launched the program right around Car Free Day last year, which is right towards the end of September 22nd, typically. So really the window to establish any kind of trend would have been pretty short at that point.
But that doesn't mean that other libraries that are starting this program can't do that from the get-go. So
Big data is our friend.
absolutely.
I was gonna chime in quickly too that, you know, and I don't know if we've seen this yet or Debbie, if you have either, but I think it's a good opportunity to also make a connection with your local, you know, bike shop for, you know, maybe a bike lock donation or some of those repairs and things. You know, having spoke to those organizations, they're usually willing to help out. So I think that's another avenue that we can also think about, unless we've got examples of that, guys, but unsure at this point.
Yeah, so far we reached out to a local organization that runs bike safety days, and we thought that they might have some helmets to donate. We thought that would be nice with the launch of our program. You know, we're not comfortable lending helmets because we don't know if they've been compromised or not. And so that's just where our comfort level is. And obviously these are all, you know, 18 and up borrowing these bikes. And so hopefully they have their own helmets. That's a great idea. We're going to continue to pursue those kinds of donations. And what business wouldn't want to be associated with this, you know, positive project?
Absolutely.
Okay, one last go around for questions, suggestions, concerns. All right, well, if that's the case, again, on behalf of Emma and the team and myself, we do appreciate you giving us some time this morning. Hopefully, we've excited you with the idea and the opportunity that's in front of you. And certainly, if you do have any questions, we'd love to hear back from you. Joanna, thank you again for making this available and giving this wonderful opportunity to speak in front of these folks. We appreciate it. And hopefully we can talk with you real soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our contact information is on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to Paul or me with any questions that you have, or if you'd like to start a conversation about next steps. So let's get some more bikes on the roads, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Everyone. Have a great one.
You can check the library website too, cplib.org, to look at our borrow a bike information.
Oh, put that in the chat, cplib.org.
Yes.
So that is ingrained. Again, this was recorded, so we will provide access along with the slides as well. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.